All right, Anthony, I just sent you a speaker invite. Mm, Invite to speak.
What you fools been up to?
Ooh, a lot of crazy stuff. Anthony, how much we contract yesterday?
2.6, like 2.6 mil.
No big deal.
Yeah, it's a little slow day. But sorry, we'll do better next time, maybe.
Damn. Do anything excite you out? Like no amount excites you no more. It's just the work, huh?
I like seeing the people win. So when we see our students get a big win, that's exhilarating, and it lasts for days too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is that the work, like now that we contracted it, the work just started. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Freaking.
true too.
the
Yeah,
work's just yeah.
Did you
yeah. So
guys have
now,
to? Did you guys have to put money up to get that asset?
yeah. So this is on the purchase and sell agreements. So on one, I think on the one that's like 600, our down payment is going to be about 40 grand,
Yeah.
and then the one that's 2 million, the down payment is going to be 1 million.
Damn. And is that coming from the fund, or are you guys gonna just rock it cash?
Private money.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have one that we're trying to pick up right now for 1.9 south of San Antonio, 330 acres. And we're going to do cash on that one, but we're going to do hard money.
And then the leads are still coming through the CRM.
Yeah, yeah, massive CRM leads and the community. So we teach them how to go out and run the deals and find them, and then we just quarterback it. Yeah, raise the capital, do that kind of stuff.
Dude, that shit is so smart, dude. Because a lot of a lot of people. The hard part is the leads, right? And like that's what takes time. But if you're getting the leads just straight up because you're helping people, then you're good to fucking go.
Yeah, that was the hardest part in the beginning, like trying to find these deals. I knew it was like a needle in a haystack. So, you spend a lot of time and a lot of money just trying to get one deal, and it could take months. It could take 3 months, 6 months just to close a deal, a year. So that's where Daniel and myself came up with the vision. Said, hey, why don't we train the community to go out and find these kinds of deals? And then eventually the deal flow would be heavy. And that's where we're at right now. We're on the receiving end where the lead flow is just obnoxious now. So we have a full-time underwriter who has a data scientist working for him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty big organization now.
Yeah. Yo, Henry in the building. Henry, I invite you to speak. Mr. Panda in the building. I've seen a lot of people use spaces to grow. So I said, why don't I use spaces to bring in my rich friends to teach how they make money? I did all right for myself, so I'll teach how I made a little bit of money as well. I was explaining because I my car broke down, so I was looking at cars today, and I was explaining to the guy at the dealership on how he could buy because the guy is selling the dealership, and he was like, "Yeah, he's selling it for like 30 million." He's like, "But nobody wants to pay that amount." And I was like, "Dude, you could buy it like this." And I gave him the creative finance ways that I learned and that I learned from Daniel. And his mind was blown. He was like, "Dude, I didn't know you could do that." And I was showing him the LOI and everything. What up, Henry? How are you, dude? I ain't talked to you in a minute.
What it do, y'all? I am well. I cannot complain. Definitely excited to learn because I see what all y'all have been doing lately. Y'all crushing it. So, yeah, I'm just excited to learn.
Shoot, the Daniel and Anthony are the ones fucking taking it to another level. It's funny because I'm not gonna say his name because he was kind of doubting the work a little bit, and he's in the mastermind, and I was like, yo, I was like, let him get his his opinion out, and I said, bro, I said Daniel and Ant are gonna be the ones to do it big first, like at that high scale. And he was like, you think so? I was like, I know so. And then maybe 2 weeks later is when you guys did the gross the million in a week, and then just things started going. But Daniel, just kind of talking about it, how do you, if you were broke and you wanted to buy an asset with no money, like what would be your choice of action?
So it always starts with marketing and then finding a motivated seller.
Yeah.
I think it's the biggest thing. When you find the right person, they're willing to take anything just to get off their hands, and that's any asset from a business to real estate to land to single family. Anthony and I have gotten free houses before just because there was enough marketing out there that hey, somebody wants to get rid of their house for nothing, you know. And then that happens with real estate too. So if people don't really want it, they're willing to take any terms to get it. So we have a deal closing mid-May that a wholesaler brought to us that they negotiated $100,000 down. So we're getting $380,000 solar finance. So it's there's a lot that comes with that, but you can get free loans.
Yeah.
So there was a tweet yesterday that somebody was knocking me that I don't do loan docs, and it was kind of funny because they're like, "Oh, you don't do loan docs, you don't do loan docs." Like, yo, you pay higher ROI just to get the loan docs. And I'm like, not every time, and yes, I don't fill out loan docs.
Yeah, I think it's just a. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Ant.
No, I was going to say something just to add on to what Daniel said. The seller doesn't always have to be motivated, especially when they're holding large assets. Right? They've been rich for a long time. Maybe they're not motivated, right? Because they're already comfortable. So it's really, I think that having some sort of motivation, right? Because they want to sell, so that's a indicator of motivation. But they don't have to be super motivated, like in a single family where their house is burning down and they need to dump it quick. But so these types of people, like I said, they're just looking, as long as they can get their price, they're cool with waiting. So they say, hey, look, I want $1 million for it. I know it's worth $1 million. We're like, no, we're at cash. We're like 500, 600. And they're like, no, I can't let it go that cheap. I got to get more than that for it. Well, we can still get them their money if they wait, right? While we improve the value of the property. So yeah, they don't necessarily have to be like a single family person where they're just so broke and strapped that they got to sell it in a day or two. They can also we can work with them if they're willing to wait.
Motivation comes in different forms. I think is the biggest thing.
We can get them a lot closer.
Yeah, I mean, so kind of explain that. So let's say someone has a property that they want $1 million for, but no bank will fund it for $1 million because the interest rates are crazy. Maybe a bank will fund 600, 700,000. How would you get them? How would you say to them, "Hey, we'll give you your $1 million, but here are the terms"? What would be your favorite way of doing it?
So I think one of the Anthony, you're breaking up a minute ago, so if you get a little better sooner, you hop in this question too. But I think the biggest thing is things weren't always as good before.
Yeah,
Right now we're kind of like we're on like 6% interest rates are high. They're really not because there was 9 to 10% interest rate in the 90s and 80s. So we're really not in high interest rates. We're just going up. We're not where people are comfortable. So
yeah,
when interest rates go high, people trade based off of financing. So they leverage their own equity to create and sell their properties whenever they want to reposition or trade, essentially trade assets or move the money where they want to. So not everybody needs the money. So if somebody has $1 million property, you figure out what they need. Sometimes it's 50 grand, sometimes it's 250 grand.
hmm,
So you figure out what they need right now, and then a lot of times they're trying to, especially with bigger assets, they're trying to defer the taxes. So if they have a multi-million-dollar property, in most cases they don't want to receive that cash. It's going to get killed by Uncle Sam, and Uncle Sam's going to spend it and send it to Ukraine.
Uncle Sam's gonna take it and pay off the interest rates on all the loans they put out for war.
Yeah, exactly. So they're gonna send it a different direction. So you get to control that and keep it in house. And it's educating the seller that they can receive it over time, and they pay less capital gains to Uncle Sam.
Yeah, I mean, you're explaining to me that you could buy anything with it. I'm doing the business side while you guys are doing land and property. Is there any other assets? This is something I don't think we talked about. Is there any other assets you could do this with besides those two? Are those the only two?
Anything, literally anything, any type of asset, cars, houses, boats, airplanes, helicopters, land, multifamily. It's really based off what you can negotiate.
You can buy anything.
One of the things I love about land, and this is why I like land over other like commercial assets and real estate,
Hmm.
is that land has a lot of equity. The people that own it don't get bank loans, and the like multifamily and storage and all these other like real estate classes, they trade hands a lot.
Yeah.
They refinance, they sell. There's like a 5 year, like everybody that does multifamily, they buy and hold for 5 years and kind of restructure and rebuild the debt, and then they kind of run it again. But land, they just sit on it. They sit on it and sit on it, and sit on it. It doesn't cash flow. They get ag exemption where they try and pay as little tax as possible, and then they they'll find somebody at the right price to right buy it in the future. Well, pass
Yeah.
it on to their family members.
Yeah. Okay, so in a business, I would only buy a business that cash flows, right? So what would you
Yeah.
say to someone that says land doesn't cash flow? I mean, you can't have someone renting it. You can't, I mean, how are you going to cash flow land?
It's a lot harder to catch the land. People lease it. They might lease it to farmers or lease it to agricultural, which
Hmm.
usually happens. And then they try and hold that asset for a long time. They might lease it to whatever. There's different ways to make it cash flow, but it's usually few and far between. And most people just let it sit. The land is the same 50 years ago as it is today in most cases. The only thing that changes it is its location. So as cities expand and contract, new opportunity is created in the path of progress.
Hmm. And then how do you guys usually cash flow them? You just go to this, usually like turn them into more lots, right?
Yeah, so the easiest way to cash flow something is to seller finance it. So I always think about how the easiest way to create a 10% ROI is you buy something for full price and then you seller finance it for whatever interest rate you want.
Hmm.
And Texas and land, you can do 10, 12%, and no one's going to bat an eye. And they're just going to pay it. And you're always secured by the actual asset itself. So you have the ability to kind of create any yield you want. But then it gets really fun when you value add on a property and then create high yield. You literally money out of thin air that it was never there at all, and you seller finance it. And that's how you create cash flow.
Yeah, because I want to buy a house, but I'm not trying to go the traditional route. I either want to creatively do it or pay it cash. You know what I mean? Um, but the business we got, I was looking at the LOI today just to like come up with ideas on kind of how to explain this. But it's crazy because I've known this stuff for a long time, but not to the extent. And one day, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but you just hit me up like excited, and the way you explained it made it click for me in my head. And then I saw all the deals that I let go because my mentor said don't get deals with real estate in it. And then when I went back to him, I was like, yo, my friend told me I could have got the real estate. I could have got money this way and this way. And he was like, yes, I just tell you guys not to get deals with real estate because you guys are dumb and you'll fuck it up. And I was like, oh. And he was like, yeah, I mean, if you have the skills and you know how to do it, it works. But on a scale of teaching people with only 90 IQs how to buy businesses, I can't teach them everything. But yeah, so we reached out, bought the home health humble. It's called Humble Health Care. It's in Wyoming for 1.5. It was worth 2.5, but Lonnie, my CFO, noticed that one of the buildings that they had wasn't cash flowing like the other ones when we looked at the balance sheets. And so he said, hey, listen, we are going to propose to them that we'll only pay for the cash flowing buildings. But the third building, they either got to get it cash flowing or they got to just hand it to us for free because we're not going to pay for things that aren't cash flowing. And when he told me that, I was like nervous because I just wanted to buy this business. I just wanted to get in the fucking game and just start making, doing what I got to do. And so I reached out and I told him, and he said, yeah, sure, totally understands. We can close it down if you want to. And I was like, no, don't close it down. How about this? We'll pay you out of the money and we'll let you manage it and start to transition. And if you can get it to cash flow, we'll pay you an extra $500,000. And 2 years later, they never got it to cash flow. So we ended up getting a $2.5 million business for 1.5. And also on a seller's note, where we're paying him probably 30 grand a month out of the work he's doing. He's paying himself. We're paying him and he's working for us to keep the business going. So essentially He's running it like he's the owner, but he's not the owner. But that's the powerful. That's the how powerful this stuff is when you figure out, how you can do this stuff. But let's say I'm just starting out and I don't really know, what these guys are talking about. What would you do if you're just starting out, Dan? If you were Henry, you just wanted to hop into the money game, what would you do?
I think this answer's kind of changed over time, but I think you got to start raising your own money because you're going to need some type of money for a down payment in most cases, and it's usually not a lot depending on your negotiation skills, but you're still going to need something to get into the door.
Mhm.
Did you have to put money down on that deal at all?
Zero, nothing.
See, that's a unicorn.
Yeah.
It's a unicorn to get into a deal like that with no money in. I congratulate you for it, but yeah, that rarely happens. I've done it before. Anthony's done it before,
Hmm.
but it doesn't happen very often. So you're gonna have to raise or at least have somebody else's money ready to deploy just in case you do need capital to get in.
Now, I guess that'll go into this part that I don't think I told you this, but what's cool about the business side is you can deploy just regular bank financing because there's all types of different loans. SBA or a bank can just give you a loan, but these businesses are only doing 2 to 5 million earnings.
Yeah.
So if he would have said, "Yeah, but I want 1 million," I could have went to the bank and got that million easily. The issue is that million would have been more tax for him. That would have been money
Yep.
that he would have got taxed on, and different things. But you can get loans from a bank to buy businesses for each business. You don't want to cross collateralize, like buy multiple businesses. You want each bank to be with a different business. And that comes with another part of doing this shit is you have to call a lot of banks and get a lot of relationships. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
You call it the bank for something like that.
Yeah, I have a whole script for it, bro. You can call the bank. What up, Grant? How you doing, man? You can call the bank. We got a bunch of listeners down there. I don't know why. 41 listeners. If you guys want to speak, just raise your hand or if you have any questions. The bank, each bank can own their part, right? And they don't care. They just want to get paid.
Yeah, yeah.
But for example, Humble is making cash flow 90 grand a month. If I would have took a loan for the million, that would have been fine. He would have got that million, but then we would have paid him less a month. But I would end up paying around the same in bills anyway,
Yeah.
right? As long as the cash flow is there to pay the bank, and then the bank doesn't even underwrite me; it underwrites the business. And if the bank just looks and says, if the cash flow is there, we'll fund it. But usually the bank doesn't cover what they want. They want this big amount in their fucking head because and like Bruce says, my mentor Bruce Whipple always says, he says the reason why people don't get rich when they own a business is because becoming rich comes from multiple liquidity events, not one. And they want one major they want to build their business and exit, and that's it. And
Hmm.
most businesses, that's not going to happen.
So let me ask you this:
Yeah.
what is their security on the business as if you get a bank loan?
So some when I first started calling out, I got discouraged because Bruce said that if you call enough banks, you'll get an idiot to fund you, right? And I'm like, all right, but everyone kept saying like, oh, we need secure loans, like you got to put your house up or you got to do this and do that. And I called all around, I'm emailing people, and then I'm like, yo, people don't do this. They don't. I was like, Bruce is wrong. Sure enough, got on a call with like our like mastermind group, and he says no, they want the loan to be secured for whatever reason because they're idiots, but all SBA loans are secured. And I was like, what you mean? He was like, it says in the SBA statute that this loan is secured by the government. So
Ah.
he said I don't recommend you to do it, but he was like, whenever they push back at me, I said, pull up the statute, motherfucker. Why are you telling me the statute says this SBA loan is backed by the U.S. government, so you're gonna get your money if I give it to you or if they give it to you. So, but he would be a kind of an asshole about it. He's like, you don't have that clout yet, you can't do it. But all SBA loans, I think SBA is up to 5, and I think Big Daddy Trump wanted to bring it up to 8, which would be better if you know what you're doing. It's secured by the government, and it says that in the statute. And anytime it comes up, you can either go to another bank or you can pull up the statute and say, "I don't understand. This is the statute. Why are you asking for secured? Blah 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 blah." But he says you gotta have the nuts to be in there and act like you belong and say that. So I wonder if that works in land. They don't do SBA for land, huh? But well, I don't know. Do you want to kind of talk about the business that you might buy at all?
No, not yet. I still need under it. I just got the financials today, so it's a $1 million business that produces 300 in cash flow annually.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, you can offer them 3 to 5 times that 300.
yeah. So we'll chop it up. We'll figure it out. Like I said, I haven't even looked at it yet. It literally
Yeah.
came in like an hour, 2 hours ago.
Yeah. So yeah, that's yours. See, in that bank, they're willing to fund it because your banker, I think, knows that if he does SBA, it's secured. It doesn't matter. It's secured. You know what I mean? What's up, Alex? How you doing, man?
You guys have any questions? Please tweet or comment.
Yeah, I got a question. I think, especially for people like myself who, and I guess this is more so a question as it relates to like land, but it could go for business, like buying businesses in general. But as a person who's interested, well, not just interested, but a person who wants to do these type of things where you're finding opportunity where people just pass it by. Like prime example is land. People pass by land a whole lot, and they'll even pass like those for sale signs that y'all see. But whereas the average person just see a sign, you all see opportunity. So the question is, how did you shift your mindset to like see the opportunity that comes with land or buying businesses?
So
I can touch the one on land
I
real
knew
quick.
Anthony was going to answer that. But before Anthony goes, what I do is I model people. I literally will watch Anthony in the room or watch his stories, and I'm just trying to go, what the fuck is he looking for? Because in his language and his syntax, he'll kind of give away little hints of how he's able to see things. Because his eyes, it is a mindset shift. But yeah, go Ant.
Yeah, so I think in land especially, it takes a high level of skill to monetize it, right? So it's monetizing. It's very complex. So that's one part of it, right? So that's a barrier of entry for land. That's why we're real heavy into the education space. We don't sell a lot of education. We give it away for free for the most part because we're interested in the deals, not the education. But another thing about land is that to bring up the value of it, you got to inject a lot of capital, right? So if somebody has a commercial piece of land, I'll give you an example of a deal I'm working on right now. A guy has a commercial piece of land, 15 and a half acres, owned it for like 10 or 15 years. Couldn't do anything with it. Sitting on a major highway across the street from a military base, right next to a gas station with a little shopping center, and the other side of it is an elementary school. So crazy traffic, a high density area. Great part of San Antonio. So the guy's sitting on the property forever, right? And all he's waiting for is for somebody to come along and just buy it cash, right? It's every landowner's dream, is that some dummy's going to come along and just buy it cash. But was he needed a professional, right? Myself, to come in and I've got about a year into it and about $200,000 worth of soft costs, like for engineering. So I'm designing a shopping center there. Hired an architect, drew up the shopping center, hired an engineer, drawing the plan, getting entrance permissions from the Texas Department of Transportation, drainage study, utility master plan, all this stuff. And now we have an offer, not a written offer yet, but Lowe's Improvement is going to come visit the site now. They're looking at leasing about 8 to 10 acres of it, or possibly the whole site. Right? The guy wanted $5 million for it. He let me get in with $21,000 worth of earnest money because he pretty much knows that he's not going to be able to do anything with it at all. Right? So that's one way to get into those properties that have on them. You have to express to the agent and to the seller that, hey, I know what I'm doing here. I have the capital to back me, this property to the next stage to make it worth what you're asking. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for trust and confidence in that seller that they'll let you take over the property for next to nothing, sometimes zero, so that you can inject capital and time into it and expertise to make it worth more. So, I think target on this one should be somewhere between 3 to 5 million profit. But it's going to take every bit of 2 years and probably about 200,000-300,000 worth of engineering on it.
And that's crazy. And like, what gives you the confidence to walk in there and say that sometimes? 'Cause I know in the beginning, I, things, but I wasn't really 100% confident on, because like one of the things I would say is we're backed by private equity or we're backed by blah, blah, blah. And when I would reach out to business brokers or businesses, they would say, where are you getting the money from to buy this business or this property? And I had a copy and paste because it was what I learned from a mentor, right? And he was like, the money will come directly or indirectly from board members and private equity. But I knew I was gonna either do seller's finance or I was gonna go to the bank and use the SBA with the statute there. But like,
So
how do you move accordingly like that?
okay, so what they did to you is they had a disqualifying question, and once you overcome your disqualifying question, you're over the threshold, and you can ask for seller finance.
Yeah,
It's so funny.
it's
So
a
I have
game.
it's a game. So I had somebody I did an LOI yesterday for 70 acres in SoCal here by Temecula, and that was one of we submitted the LOI and like, you guys have proof of funds? Like, yes, I have proof of funds, and we'll raise the rest. We'll syndicate and raise the rest of the money for the purchase, and no questions asked.
So they're just, I guess they're
Yeah.
trying to see if you're serious.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely.
One thing you have to remember is that if somebody has a business, right, and they're usually looking to exit, they're exhausted, they're out of capital, they're out of energy, lost interest in the business. So there's a lot of reasons why they want to sell, right? So I think the positioning mentally is that, hey, there's a lot of people out there that have businesses. What makes yours worth me injecting my capital into? I do have a limited source of capital, right? I don't have access to $100 billion. So why should I spend my limited capital on your business? So you turn it on them, where you position yourself to say, why? What's so good about your business that makes me want to buy it? And that you start asking the qualifying questions. Same thing with land, right? So the seller's like, hey, I have this piece of land. I want $3 million for it. I'm not going to take a penny less. I'm like, okay, sir. Well, everything around you is selling for about $2 million. So is there anything particular that's different about your property compared to your neighbors that makes yours worth that extra 30%, 50%? And the guy said, no, I just know what it's worth. That's what I want. Had it forever. I don't need to sell it. I'll die with it. Okay. Well, I'm just wondering if you are trying to get that kind of money, I think I know how to make it worth that, but it's probably going to cost me at least a year, maybe 18 months. And I'm going to spend at least maybe 500 to $1 million to improve the property, where I can make it worth that. So, if I can ask you a few more questions about the property, I'll take a look at it and see if I'll talk to my partners about it, see if it's something that we want to mess with. Because effectively, what you're asking me, sir, is you're asking me to lend you, roughly 500,000 to $1 million to bring up the value of your property to make it worth 3 million. I know how to do it. It costs a lot of time and a lot of capital. So, if you can give me some good reasons why I should look at your property as opposed to your neighbors, I'm happy to have that conversation. So again, making the seller like pre-qualify themselves. Like, I'm not asking you to buy your property. I'm asking you to convince me to buy it.
So one of the
Yeah,
cool things about this, real quick, is that I love land because there's so much inventory. If they don't want to sell, I can talk to the neighbor, and you just move on. So there's so much inventory, so you have the upper hand because they're the ones that want to sell now. So you can always, like, you're the ones that want to sell. I'm going to do a deal with you, but if you don't want to do a deal, I can go talk to the neighbor.
yeah, and also Henry, like the positioning, like Ann said, is huge. Like whoever's asking the questions is usually in the most powerful position because they're taking questions out of people. But I'll tell you this from experience and from what I've heard: if you are doing outreach or if you stop and call the owner to land or business and you say, "Hey, are you willing to sell? Are you looking to exit?" And they're like, I mean, what's your offer? Like, I'll take an offer. If they say that, but like nonchalantly, they're desperate. They want to sell it really, really bad. They just don't want to sell it for whatever low amount, and they know that most people try to lowball them. But where we come in, or not really we, but we're being smart creatively financing and learning how to do all this stuff. Is you can get them what they want, and you also get what you want. It's like voodoo.
I think the craziest thing is that you can in the businesses you can buy cash flow. Like all of our stuff doesn't cash flow. We have to value add. So it's kind of a different. It's a nuance for us. Go ahead, Anthony.
No, I was going to say, well, just to mention what Roy was talking about is like, when you're asking these sellers, businesses, land, you're not beating them up, right? So you're not telling them how terrible the business is. You're not telling them how bad the land looks and how much work it needs, right? You don't go there with them because remember, these people have their life invested into this thing. Probably had a lot of sleepless nights, arguments with the spouse, that kind of stuff, keeping the thing alive. So if you come in and start beating it up, well, of course they're automatically going to defend it. Right, but if you come in and you tell them how amazing the land is, how beautiful it is, how much you love it, that stuff, like everything you appreciate about it, then they start to identify with you. Like this guy sees what I saw in it, a long time ago. And sometimes these, like I said, they don't need the money; they just want to see the project fulfilled. So I think that's a way to like tap into their psyche and to put them on your side is to say, look, I know what you're trying to do here. You've got it pretty darn far. I know I can carry it the rest of the way. So if you give me that opportunity, I can show you how to get this done. So you want to get the sellers on your side. It's not necessarily about coming in and breaking them down or tearing them apart and telling them what's wrong with it.
Honestly, Henry, what I love about these two business models the most is big wins. So when you do the lag, like it takes a long time to get like it's not really a sale, but it takes a long time to get a deal. But when you get a deal, you're a soft millionaire. When you get another deal, you're a millionaire. When you get a couple more deals after that, you're a multi-millionaire. So it's big deals, and the funnel is small. Like these people doing these sexy funnels, landing page to a funnel to a funnel to a tripwire to all of this shit, and it's for $100 sale, a $500 sale. Your copy has to be perfect. On this is the entire funnel, Henry. Find out who might be selling. Email them to ask them, are they selling? Get on the phone and
Go
say,
take them out to dinner.
and go take them out to dinner, and you just talk and figure it the fuck out. Like it's an easy funnel.
Yeah,
Now it is their life's work. It is their property, so it may take a week. It may take a month. I got a guy that I've been talking back and forth for 2 years, but hey, at the end of the day, if I ever buy it, that's another a couple million, right?
yeah, absolutely. No, the sales a little different, and like literally, I have run a small business and I had 4 chargebacks today. Like I don't have to deal with that over there. It's a totally different sales cycle, and as long as you can hang on for the ride, like you can negotiate anything. So like a lot of these business owners and landowners, they want to know they're selling to somebody who's going to do something with it or make good use of it. They put it in good hands. Like that commercial seller who had the 15 acres, he's like, we know we're going to make a lot of money on this if we do the deal. He's like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I need you to do the deal. Like, it's not even about the money. It's not even about the timing. It's just, I need somebody to do something with this and make something of it because I've had it for this long. So there's like
Yeah,
a thing of the legacy.
I told the guy, I said, hey, I'm probably going to make like 7 to 10 million on this. I was like, so if we partner up on it, I'll give you half, and instead of me making all the money. He's like, no, that's fine. I want you to make the money. All right, say no more.
Yeah. And then Daniel sent me a TikTok. 78 trillion the baby boomers still have. They have half of the assets and wealth in America still. And so when he sent me that, I watched it. It was like, So then I Googled, when are the baby boomers going to die? And most of them are going to die between 2040 and 2050. So from now to 2050 is going to be the biggest transformation of wealth ever in the history of the United States of America. And it's going to be via land and via businesses of the baby boomers dying. And all of those businesses are going to go to 3 places. They're going to go to probate. They're going to just be stopped and nothing's going to happen, or hedge funds, or they're going to go to you. And 78 trillion, dog, if you can't figure out how to get 20 mil out of that, that's my number. You know what I'm saying? I tell people 100 million, but it's really like 25 million allocated property. Then I'm out the fucking game. Peace. I'm done.
You just need to be on the receiving end of some of that. There's a lot of the pie, and it's all big assets too. $78 trillion. That's not a 10 house portfolio. It
It's a
might
lot
be.
of money.
That's gonna be the apartments, the multifamily, the storage, all the land out there. Like one thing I love about land is like you go to any major city, you zoom out, and everything you see is green. Like okay,
Yeah,
that's a lot of inventory.
yeah. And how much of the properties and land do you think is owned outright, Daniel?
Oh, land owned outright has got to be 75% or more, in my opinion.
Wow.
Because I know houses are like 50%.
Hmm.
Land's got to be 70 plus, maybe 80%.
So
Yeah,
sellers
I was
finance
gonna
is the
say
way
we
to go.
probably never took over a land sub two, have we, Daniel? Taking over payments
We've only, I think, out of all the properties, we've only found one
that
was
had a
Del
mortgage on it.
Del Mar had a full mortgage on it.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's been the only one. Most of them are owned free and clear.
How do you guys handle a mortgage? Sub two or?
That one we were trying to take over sub two because they got. What's funny is that one was seller finance. The person selling it got like 5 or 10 year seller financing, and it wasn't even with the bank. It was previous seller financing, and then they're looking to possibly seller finance it to us, or us develop it and cash them out and cash the other lender out. But a lot of this is seller finance, and that's the big thing about big assets, especially land, is a lot of it you can get seller finance, some portion of it.
Hey, so in the spirit of the name of the room, right? Buying assets with no money. Everybody's in here listening, like, well, how do we do it? So I think let's cover some of those. I think the one of the easiest ones is like a novation type agreement. If any of you guys are familiar with the term novation, you'll see house investors do that a lot. Daniel, myself, do zero houses. But if you come in with a seller, right, and this is what we're looking for. Again, we're not looking for a motivated seller. A seller who wants too much is probably a better candidate for this, right? Because in the house game, you're only looking for people that want to liquidate. They're trying to sell at a crazy low price, 50 cents on the dollar, so you can come in, make it appreciate, right? And then you're all in for 75 cents or whatever, so you can make a little bit of spread on it. But where a seller wants more, right, or they're not liquidating, they want full market price, we come in and we'll negotiate to let the seller hold it while we improve it. Right, and sometimes improving does take a couple of dollars, but you don't to get into the asset. You don't need anything. All you need is for the seller to grant you time. And you say, hey, I can get you the money you're looking for. I know how to do it. It's going to take me a little bit. So it could be as simple as picking up a 100-acre tract, negotiating with the seller that you're going to pay him off in 90 days or 180 days. You get it under contract, so you haven't bought anything yet, right? You're still zero out of pocket. You can borrow the $1,000 from your grandma. And then you are going to hire an engineer to come in and drop about 10 surveys, 5 surveys, something like that. So you're going to spend about $2,500 a lot, 10 lots, $25,000. But then you can turn around and you sell that property. You still haven't bought it yet, right? You start getting contracts with end buyers to come in and just double close at the table. So all the end buyers come in, they pay the seller off for the property, and then you put the rest in your pocket. Right, and again, that's like we do those types of loans too, and we don't check anybody's personal credit, anything like that. We'll just fund the deal and then take a piece of it. So you can do these deals with zero out of pocket.
So it's self funding, and like I said, this comes down like so we're land guys, so we self fund with the deal itself. So I tweeted out like yesterday or 2 days ago. This is a little saucy for everybody here, but we tweeted out that we're buying a $2 million property with $1 million down. All we're gonna do is we have an extended close, and we're gonna sell them. We're gonna sell their property and pay them off with their own property. Like we're not coming up with $1 million to buy that. We're gonna pay them with their own property.
Yeah, so take a look at that. $2 million, right? It's 200 acres, and it has about a mile of river frontage on it down by Corpus, right, in Texas. So we negotiated 50% down with a 6-month close. So now, like Daniel said, we're not going to have to borrow $1 million from a bank, from a private money lender, nobody. We have 6 months to market that property and show it, subdivide it, get contracts on some of those child parcels, and let's say we only get, I don't know, 4 sales, and on closing day we have $800,000 worth of buyers lined up. So we're not bringing $1 million to the closing table. We're only going to bring $200,000, right? And the sellers are the buyers, the new buyers are going to bring 800. So now we picked up a $2 million lot with 200,000. I think the lowest amount of profit we should make on here is like 1.6, and then minus agent fees and commissions and that kind of stuff.
Now on the business end, the I don't see. I don't know the names of how we would do these loans, but essentially we would do the same thing. Like we'll give you your number. We don't mind. But like Daniel says, money now is more expensive than money later. And when you understand that, I'm like, okay, bro, the bank will only give you, or nobody's gonna buy this business for 2 million, but I'll buy it for 3 million. But I want to pay you this amount over a course of a time. That gives us time to improve the business, like you said, improve. There's only two ways to improve a business. That's up your prices or improve business processes, right? But being that we want to roll up these companies and sell them, we don't want to focus too much on improving one business. But I think here's the crucial part is once they're in a deal, they don't want to give it back. Like they don't want it back. They'll give you extra time. You can always negotiate extra time, or a lot of it people don't do it because they feel like it's stressful. Like, what if I don't make the payments, or what if I don't do this? They don't want it. They just want to be liquid so they can retire, and they want their amount because they can't live without the amount. Just period. And if they can't get that amount, they're gonna die and let the thing go into probate.
No, I think one of the biggest things you said is that you can always renegotiate later. We try not to retrade too much, especially in negotiations. We try not to do that too much, but sometimes it calls for it. We have to retrade and renegotiate different terms. But this is one of the things I love about seller financing on the back end is you can renegotiate the terms of seller financing at any point. You can call that seller every 6 months and renegotiate that seller finance term. So you have the ability to, now that they're the bank, to renegotiate any part of the original terms, and it's free game. It's fair game, should I say?
Oh, was
He's
that Oglesby that just got here? Somebody needs to invite him to speak.
he pulled up, and I know. Yo, Charles, Charles's story is my favorite story to watch. He had me rolling, and like him and my auntie are Clipper fans, so like I just be watching them, and like it's good to see them actually in the playoffs because they could feel the hurt and stress that we feel. But I don't know. I invited him. I think I invited him to speak or co-host. He's probably figuring it out. All right, that sub two guy. How do the sub twos work? I still don't understand that too much. I don't know if Daniel could explain it in the business sense, but why
Yeah,
would yeah? Because you can't really create a finance if they have a mortgage, right? Or you can, but it's harder.
it's you got to understand the nuance of it. So a lot of loans aren't assignable, but you can, as long as the banks don't want to hold the asset. Like when banks own, when they foreclose, they hate it. They're always trying to sell the inventory before they have to own it. They're trying to sell the inventory before, as soon as they get it, they're just trying to liquidate because they don't want to manage and rebuild that property. They're in the debt game. They're in the finance game. So you have a nuance that there's loans in place that they're not going to call due, and yes, they do call some due, so you have to be prepared for that in some cases. But you can essentially take over the deed of, you take over the ownership of the property, because the mortgage and the owner and the deed they're attached, but they're not the same thing. So you can transfer deed and ownership without relinquishing the debt that's currently in place. So we've gotten, maybe we have one house that we picked up that way, that
Okay.
we kind of traded for something else. But you essentially pay the mortgage whenever it comes due, and you now own the deed, and they send you a letter in the mail saying, "Hey, you're not the mortgagor of this loan.
Hmm.
You either need to sell or refinance." And then that's something you have to deal with when you come across it. But it rarely happens as of now, and it could change in the future.
Hmm.
It's just that the banks own so many assets, they're not checking the deed and who actually applied for the loan.
Copy that. Copy that. Let's talk about things that could. Charles said he's driving, so he's just listening. Let's talk about things that could break you, like mistakes that could, because people are worried about making a mistake that's going to financially break them. And honestly, I can't really see any on the business side because, again, those loans are secured. I mean, we gave the sauce about how those SBA loans are secured by the government. So
Hmm.
that's why we go businesses 2 to 5 times, because guess if you fuck up, government's going to pay. And you probably can still keep the asset as well. But what are some things in land that people should watch out for?
I think the biggest thing is don't do shady shit. If you're doing a transaction, stick to your word. There's a lot of lawsuits that happen in business and real estate over stupid things that could have been prevented, and some have their rightfully they're rightfully due whenever somebody needs to get sued. So it depends on the situation, but
Hmm.
I think the thing is do the right thing whenever you're doing business or real estate, because there's a lot of money at stake. a lot of money at stake. We've had to sue sellers for non-performance. We've been sued for different things on our side. So it's just you're not trying to like do the wrong thing. You just got to watch your back. That's all about. So you always have to have a good attorney and a good agent. Somebody on our team, he's been an agent for 15 years. He protects us, man. Our attorney protects us from
Yeah.
legal liability. There's been points where we drop 15, 20K in a month on attorneys, and it's worth it because it's saving you from headache. And a lot of it is you're trying to prevent issues before they happen. You gotta have foresight, and you can't prevent everything. You're gonna get hit in the
Yeah.
face someday.
Hey, I got a good lawyer. His name is Chat GPT.
Hey, we won a couple cases with him, right, Daniel?
Yeah, we've won a case with ChatGPT.
So the rule of thumb goes: if somebody sues you or sends you a demand letter or something, right, you cease communication with the other party, and then you bring in your own attorney. But since Daniel and myself, we like sued and got sued a couple of times in a row, I'm like, hey, this looks kind of familiar. So yeah, we hired ChatGPT as our lawyer, and we diffused 2 lawsuits just with ChatGPT. So that was pretty cool, man. Saved ourselves a ton of money by learning that. So I told Daniel I'm feeling pretty confident now. So that's why I text Charles. I'm like, how do I become an attorney? What do I got to do? I was feeling all lawyery after we beat a couple of lawyers quick.
Yeah. So in M&A, it's kind of hard because you want to get a lawyer as well, a good M&A lawyer, and a lot of them you want to, they teach us in the mastermind group to try to get them on a success fee basis. So after we close the deal, then we'll pay them or whatever. And so my lawyer who I did that with was hella cool because he gave me all these templates that I could use. And he said, I'll come in on the purchase agreement and then I'll do a success fee just on the purchase agreement. So the LOI and all of that, the letter of intent, I kind of just had like kind of these templates. But I went to ChatGPT and say, use this template. And then I said, act like a expert M&A person. This is the deal we're making and
That's
make it happen. And then I sent it to him, and he said, "That's perfect. Just add in a breakup fee, which a breakup fee is if they sign an LOI and then they break up, they have to pay me an amount."
ooh.
And yeah. That's you could slide that in there. But yeah, man, ChatGPT is huge.
So there's been some. I follow some lawyers here on Twitter, not including Charles, but there's some lawyers here that say a lot of their job is just templates.
Nah, yeah, 1,000%. Like, and when Charles done with lawyer stuff, like he knows business. And
Yeah,
so what he's going to be able to do with that skill set and in business, I think takes him to another level, especially what we're all doing and we get together and really really do something incredible. But let's say you want to go faster, and this is kind of what I've been looking into, and Daniel, you guys are actively doing it. I've been trying to ask myself, do I just want to go slower? But using money, are you cool with getting into that, Daniel, on other ways to get money and
yeah.
using funds?
Yeah, we can talk about it. I don't know,
So,
check go over lots of sets.
so where do we start? Look, just throw some ideas out there, and we'll go back and forth on it.
Okay, so where do you get money? Where do you get funds? So I would say first and foremost, your family and friends are going to be where you get the funds the fastest and quickest because they know, like, and trust you first. And then second is going to be from your network. It's most of the funds we've gotten have been referrals from somebody else. It never comes from the person that you know directly. In
Hmm.
most cases, I raised $500,000 from one of my brother's best friends' boss.
Yeah,
Came from referral. I did raise from one of my friends from high school. It's going to come from your network, the people that know, like, and trust you from the past.
yeah.
So a lot of that is talking about what you do and how you do it, and that's probably going to be the easiest amount of capital. But you're usually going to get referrals from somebody else. So if you,
As real quick, sorry, Daniel. As we're speaking, if you guys have any questions, you could just raise your hand or whatever. But go ahead, Daniel. You said family, friends, network.
network referrals, Anthony preaches this all the time: is to tell people on social media what you do. There's millions of dollars, billions of dollars ready out there to invest. They just don't know where to invest, and they're out here buying
Yeah,
Tesla stock, or VU, or whatever, QQQ. You name it, the dividend bros love it. They're out there buying that stuff. But a lot of times they're looking for adverse investments that aren't attached to the market, or they're looking to diversify. where they're not in the stock market, looking to buy real estate, looking to buy oil and gas, looking to buy water rights. Like there's diversification in a lot of different ways where you can diversify and buy other stuff. So you have a
Yeah.
dividend bro who wants to diversify into real estate. You can buy real estate notes.
Yeah.
You can buy a rental. You can buy Airbnb. So there's a lot of different asset classes inside of that. So there's a lot of people out there with capitals looking to deploy and diversify into other assets that produce a good ROI.
What
So,
about? Yeah.
but
Something I would say on raising capital is all you need is proof of concept. All you need is a track record, and that's it. So I think in the beginning, when you're first starting, instead of like swinging for the fences and trying to get a really big deal, get any deal, any profitable deal, and the profit that you make on it kind of doesn't matter. It matters more that you've done 100 deals, right? As nobody's going to be as impressed if you did one deal and you made 100 grand than if you did 100 deals and you made 10 grand on each one, right? So when somebody's lending you their capital, they just want to know that you're a good steward of it and you know how to multiply it. And that's really all they care about. They don't care if they give you. We were getting some high level mentoring by a guy that's like super high up in real estate, and he told us the kinds of returns that you guys are making. He said they're unbelievable. He said, so what you guys are going to have to do, he said, you're going to have the opposite problem for most real estate teachers. He said, you're not going to have a problem of convincing people to lend you the money because of what kind of returns you're getting. He said, you're going to have the opposite is where people are not going to believe the returns. He said, so it'll be a lot easier if you guys just dumbed it down a little bit. He said, talk about the deals where you did pretty good more than you talk about the deals where you did amazing. Right. So if you're doing a lot of deals and you have a clear and concise track record, it's on paper, right? So you can prove it. When somebody comes to lend you money, that's all they're going to want to see. It's like, hey, how many times have you done this before? How many successful transactions have you had? And then the money just comes, and then it comes, and then they tell their friends, and they tell their friends, and sooner or later you'll start to have more capital than deals. But that's what I would say. I would say start small, consistent, and then go for high volume over doing larger deals, like less larger deals in the beginning.
and money knows money. So once you get that little money, they're gonna know somebody else with more money and like, hey, I've done ABC deals with this person. You want to hop in? So
Yeah.
money knows money, and it comes in
And
like that.
Yeah. Imagine all those consistent deals you're doing, right? So let's say you did 100 deals and it's spread out over a year or 2 or 5, but you're posting that on social, right? You're posting it on your stories, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere. People are watching, right? So you post your first deal and everybody claps for you to give you a high five. They don't really mention it, right? But by the time you post your 100th deal, you're getting inbox messages where people are saying, how does this stuff work? Like, how do you guys need any kind of capital? How are you funding this stuff? You start to get those kinds of questions when people see that you're consistently doing one business model, right? So if you're jumping from different business model to different business model, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. But if you're doing the same business over and over and over again, over time and distance, and you're posting about those deals, people, they're watching and they're noticing. And over time and distance, the volume starts to go up of people that take interest in what you're doing. So I think that's probably the main thing, is not only doing the deals, but publicly displaying it and talking about it too.
yeah.
I,
Let me.
I want to I want to highlight real quick what Anthony
Yeah.
said. Doing the same thing consistently. So we've done the only thing we post about is land, but we bought houses and other asset classes and mobile homes. But the only thing we post about is land because we want
Yeah.
people to show that we're consistent in the one thing. Go ahead, Roy.
So a few things. Money loves money. That's huge. There's there's a website called Search Funder where people are searching for deals, and there's people searching for people who search for deals to give them money to search for the deals. And there's literally a bunch of people looking to fund you to buy land to do this because there's older guys with a bunch of money who have friends who have a bunch of money, and they just don't want to do the work. But you just need to have the idea, and they know ideas that work. So I did a post on there maybe a year and a half ago where I just said, "Hey guys, I'm consolidating a fragmented industry and looking for banks to fund each deal. Hit me up." And then I had like 100 messages. So that told me like, okay, they know more in my idea than I do, right? But why? The weird thing that bugged me out is why other people don't want to do it, because essentially it's a roll up. And but then they wanted to talk to me like what industry, and then I told them, they're like, yes, that industry is extremely fragmented, and they know it's just cold calls at that point and cold emails at that point, and These old people don't know that you could send 1,000 emails a day with AI. So if you put it idea together like, hey, I'm going to buy land, or hey, I'm going to buy businesses, I'm going to use AI to do outreach, I'm going to go volume, but I just need this much money to close the deals, then they will do that. But I'm so glad we did this, because Daniel, to catch this idea, I just got this idea. I didn't want to bring in fund people to fund because I didn't want to give up too much equity, and I wanted to exit with multi-million dollars in around 20. By the time I'm 48, and but reminded me of that part where the bank, it secures it. I'm gonna have these guys. I'm gonna go to, where we know to go, and say, hey, send me, maybe I don't need a bunch of money, because I don't need you guys to help me buy the businesses. I'll get the business funded it through the bank. I'll use the bank. I don't mind using the bank. But if you give me $1 million to search, so I can search at a high level and maybe get some employees, I gave 10%, 11%,
Yeah.
and
If you
a board seat.
the money doesn't want to work for the active capital. So most of the time they've inherited or earned it themselves, and they know how hard it is to earn. So a lot of times they're looking for a different workhorse to help carry that burden of creating capital, or someone else is just going to create the capital solely.
Yeah,
A lot of people with capital, they just need to get like, once you hit a certain level of wealth, you don't need to work anymore. If you live
yeah,
if you live, you know what your means are, and I hate that phrase, but if you know what you can create with the capital, and you know how much capital you have, you can stop and retire right now. Like, don't buy the big boat unless you can afford it. And
mhm,
if you can afford it, good for you. But if you're not out here hustling and grinding,
mhm,
and you're trying to overproduce and live in excess, you're always going to be chasing that threshold.
yeah. And people, they go to VCs, they go to rich people and ask for money, but let's talk about funds. Hedge funds, search funds. Can people start their own funds?
Absolutely. Anybody can start a fund. And a lot of times you don't have to have experience doing it. You just start small. So I interviewed a guy who started his first fund was $65,000.
Hmm.
$65,000, and he was doing like micro loans with the $65,000. And I laugh at that because, I mean, I can make a phone call and raise $65,000, but he created a fund structure for $65,000. But you build experience over time, and build credibility, and the fund space is very, how many funds have you done, and how many were they successful, and are they still up and running, and what ROI are you producing, because they're SEC
Yeah,
regulated. So you have a track record. So if you're going into that space, you can go out there and start $100,000 fund, which should be very simple to get from friends and family. Build a track record, produce an ROI with the money, and then go start a second one that's maybe $1 million or $3 million, whatever that is, and
does
kind of
the
work.
FCC secure it, or they just regulate it?
They regulate it.
Oh, that's why Dum Dum went to jail for the fund he made for crypto.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
they regulate it, and he was doing fraudulent activity with it too. So the biggest thing is that you do the right thing, and if you don't, you're going to prison. So you're
Mm,
SEC regulated, and you don't do the wrong thing. But a lot of people don't understand is, if they disclose and lose the money, they're not going to prison. They just lost the money.
yeah.
There was a big fund that Charles was here, but there was a big fund that they lost a lot of money, and there's even funds getting hit with multifamily right now that are losing everything. They probably not going to end up in prison because they just made a bad investment. So
Yeah.
it ruins your track record, but they're not necessarily going to prison if they disclose and show that front risk.
Yeah. Okay. I'm still looking into this as well, so I'll see if you want to touch on it. Imagine if a country like, I don't know, China wants to own stuff in the US. How could China invest in you to help fund your idea?
So that's we. I'm working on my son on here a second too, but
By the way,
there's
I reached out to someone, and I've talked to someone who's runs Kuwait's.
oh
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
how'd that go?
he said that He will put me in touch with everyone, and they'll think about, the idea. At the very least, I'll get to pitch, but I could tell it was really a lot of morality in it. Like he asked, was I Muslim?
Oh,
Um,
really?
there, yeah, but shit, I might have to Andrew Tate, bro.
Okay, okay. So
I'm gonna have
let's
to
spill a little
put my
sauce here.
yarmulke on.
Let's spill a little sauce here. I think you kind of alluded to it, but sovereign wealth funds. There's countries that want to invest in America because they know they produce a higher ROI, whether it's in infrastructure, businesses, or development, and you can talk to their country. So you talk to Kuwait and they're asking if you're a Muslim. So that's
Mhm.
interesting. And I told you that when I put you down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, it gets really political, and I hated politics my whole life. But the more and more that I go up the money game and learn more about money, it's
You
fucking
have to make a
political.
stand. So you have to make a stand somewhere and draw a line because
Yeah,
if you're in the middle, it shows that you have no stance. You have no backbone.
yeah. They really
So
want you to pick a side and
they
put
really
put
want
your
you to pick
ass
a
on the
side
line.
and stick to it exactly and draw the line.
Yeah, it's wild because if you have enough money and you figure out your fund, but what's really cool about the funds is they're not transparent. As I learned about them and read about them, it Kuwait could invest in me to buy. I could end up buying 10% of the businesses in healthcare backed by Kuwait, which means Kuwait essentially owns 10% of the healthcare system in the United States. And then it gets weird politically when people find out and they start talking shit about me. They start talking shit about everyone. Like, this guy's a traitor. I can't believe Kuwait. And then that's when they try to shun you out with laws and things like that. But at the end of the day, of course they would want to do that because they want its power if you own something from the country that will blow everything up to keep things going.
Absolutely. So there was a story, and I told Roy about the story a couple. I don't know when it was, but you can Google it. There was a city in Virginia, West Virginia, one of the mountainous areas on the East Coast, that was the bridge was so deteriorated that they couldn't cross it. So essentially, there was a whole little pocket community that couldn't commute out of the community because it was kind of surrounded by mountains. So the city ended up reaching out to Russia. I think this is before the Russia-Ukraine war issued, but they reached out to Russia and they asked for funding for the bridge, and Russia agreed. And it made such bad publicity for the United States. The United States fixed it, but Russia wanted to embarrass the United States for not fixing the bridge
Yeah.
infrastructure.
like
But
like the water in Flint. Now everybody be mad if China gave us the money for it, but they don't want to fix it.
exactly, exactly. Imagine if China came and fixed the Flint water, Michigan water crisis. Ooh.
That would be crazy. And I don't. You told me the sovereign wealth funds they own all the toll roads or just some of them.
They own a lot of infrastructure. They
Okay.
buy into infrastructure. There was a story where you can look this up. It's fact. Saudi Arabia sold or Chicago sold their parking meters for 60 years to Saudi Arabia.
Oh wow.
So big money, especially like funds like that, they'll invest in infrastructure and development.
And they probably just needed the liquidity at the time.
Oh yeah, yeah. Chicago definitely needed liquidity at that time, so they'll sell
If
future
you
revenue.
can, if you can catch anyone who needs liquidity, man, you can get their shit up out of them. Like Jordan got finessed out of his NBA team, but
Well, I mean, even this, America finessed Panama. If you really want to get political, America
yeah.
finessed Panama for the Panama Canal.
Oh,
So,
I'm sorry, brother. I just saw that 2YC. Did you have a question? Oh, he coming a listener. Oh, dang. There was like a whole request button that I didn't even see. Damn it. I wonder how many people requested and got mad and just left.
yeah, yeah, I don't even. This is my first time using Spaces, so I don't even know.
Yeah, it's my first time. But one of the guys, there's a guy I follow. His name is Gary, and he built a huge following on Spaces. So I was like, let me start doing Spaces because I'll get when they go on space. When you go on, it starts notifying people like, oh, da da da's on the Spaces, and then we could just always talk about different stuff and coach through different things. But did that make sense, Daniel? I could take a search fund just to search for the businesses, but then I can use the 2 to 5. I can use the SBA to fund them.
Yeah.
I don't need to fund them through the people who are giving me the money. I just need that search fund. So yeah, I'm gonna hit up that list and see if they let me search. I'll give them 10%. I don't fuck.
There's money out there, and there's money out there looking for deals, and all these baby boomers they're passing all their assets down to somebody that's gonna inherit them or buy it.
Yeah,
It's all gonna change hands in a matter of time. So
yeah.
you need
We're
to be in.
finishing. We're
You need to
finishing up. I'm just gonna invite everyone to speak, just in case they heard something that they didn't understand, or want to ask a question, or just want to meet Daniel or Anthony. So if you guys want to, you're welcome to raise your hand and ask any questions before we slide out of here. Or in the meantime, if Ant or Daniel, if you want to say anything, or tell them where the Hive is live is, get your free. Well, it's not free. It's your dollar course on how you guys do this stuff.
Yeah, you can text. Yeah, so we try to sell education. Like a lot of it, the dollar. You text course to 210-972-1842. It's a dollar course. We cover the basics of land investing that interest you. But yeah, not really here to sell information here, but just more educating. And you have to send me this video because we have to put this on a podcast.
Yeah, I'm gonna download it.
Before we go, before we get out of here, guys, I just want to cover probably the biggest wealth gaining tip that I've accumulated in 42 years. I wish I learned this a long time ago. But if you're busy, like everybody has this in their mind, because I had it as a kid too, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs who do. You're imagining that you're going to start a business and that it's going to go so great that you're going to take your funds and then you're going to keep reinvesting and growing at the same time. But that's not reality.
Yeah.
For companies like Instagram and Facebook and those kinds of guys, they did like an infinite raise, right? So a lot of these companies failed for the first 10 years and they just kept raising capital, right? So if I had known that early on, I would have went to raising capital a lot earlier in my life. And another thing that kind of accelerated our capital is as you're raising funds, you're raising capital, you're going to always have a back and forth, right? Everything oscillates, right? The universe oscillates, energy, everything, right? Goes up, down, high and low, good and evil. So as you're raising capital, sometimes you're going to have excess deals that require capital, and then sometimes you're going to have excess capital and no deals. So something that we've done as a bolt-on is when we have excess capital that we don't need for our own deals, we sell it into other people's deals, right? So we come in as a lender. So if you charge above 18% in Texas, that's a felony, right? You could go to prison. So what we do, instead of coming in as a traditional lender and having somebody fill out loan docs, we lend them money to do their deals, and we come in as a partner, right? So if somebody has a deal, let's say they sign up a $5 million ranch and they need 400 grand to get it done. The deal's not getting done without that cash, right? One way or another. Banks aren't going to lend on it, right? Banks aren't even lending on housing developments right now. So what we'll do is we'll come in, we'll put the 400 in, and maybe we take a larger spread than that. Maybe we take 80% and the other guy takes 20.
Yeah.
So as you're going out to start any business venture, if you start with the mindset of raising capital first, then you're waiting to make your own capital and reinvest it, because you're going to die broke trying to do that.
Yeah. I guess it's just being creative. Like literally drop any idea you've heard about how you got to buy shit or sell shit, and anything that you can think of, you can make a contract for and figure it out. It's anything you could think of. Like for example, I had this idea that I couldn't buy healthcare companies in California because in California you have to have a doctor. The doctor has to own it, or you have to have a doctor on staff, and the doctor has to own a certain percentage of the company. So what guys were doing that I didn't know till I found out recently after talking to Bruce was they'll buy 51% of the company or a certain amount of the company, keep the doctor on staff, give him, and then kind of do the same thing we're doing creatively, paying him, and he has to stay and work until you can find another doctor. So it's different ways, and then you can just keep that in the portfolio, because we keep these businesses in a holdings company, each separate entities in a holding company, and then we sell the whole holding company on the exit, or go public, depending on uh, the best way to go liquid at the time. But Literally, if you suspend all of your mental blocks and just be creative, you can figure out a way to do almost anything, and that's what a true entrepreneur does.
I think the biggest thing is understanding that everything is for sale.
Literally everything.
Everything is for sale. You just have to talk to the right person. And hey, you selling this anytime soon? if,
1,000%. 1,000%. Well,
if
I
I made you
appreciate.
if I made you an offer, would you take it? Well, I'd be open to it. That's it. You can
And
start
if
the
there's enough
conversation.
money, people will take an offer. And guess what? Oh, well, hey, I'll give you what you want, but here's the terms.
That's right. That's
You know
right.
what I'm saying?
This has been good, man. Send me the audio for this, man. I'm gonna
Yeah, I
turn it.
got you, man. Thank you guys for jumping on. I'm gonna do these more often. We'll get the millionaire on here and start getting people on here and start talking our shit. This was just off the cuff and it was crazy. Henry, what it do? Oh, Henry dropped down to listener. So, all right, guys, thanks. I'll zip this up for you and get it over to you. All right, man. Peace.
See ya.
Let me get a special effect on this bitch.